We're going to be talking about an El Paso couple who, just like me, disappeared. But unfortunately, they have still never been found to this day. It is a tale like any other. And again, it's one that chills El Paso to this very day. So let's get into it. Hello, welcome back to the other side. Like I said, I acknowledge the fact that I have disappeared, and I am so terribly sorry that I disappeared. I was sick for like 2 weeks, and I tried getting a video out, and it was really hard. I could not breathe. I don't know what was going on. A lot of people said that there was like allergies. Some people are saying that there was this new strain of COVID. There's a lot of different things that people were saying that were going on. I don't know. All I know was that I got sick and I had very difficulty breathing, and I went to the doctor, and they told me both times that I went telling them I can't breathe, that they were like, there's nothing wrong with your lungs. Your lungs sound amazing. There's nothing, like you're testing negative for everything. Only thing we notice is the sinus right here and some stuff in your throat. That's it. So I'm glad to be back, though. I'm so sorry. I hate disappearing. My goal for this year really is to make this channel where we post every single week. I'm going to try my best next week as well because I am going out of town, so that always is hard. But hey, you know what? We're here to talk about spooky. It's kooky time. Let's get into some scary stories. Let's talk about it because today we're going to be diving diving in, like I said, to this wild story that has inspired, urban legends, wild stories of espionage, alien abductions. Like, people have tried their best to explain what happened in 1957. But unfortunately, even in 2025, there's just nothing. There's no proof, no validity to anything. There are a bunch of people who like to talk, but there's just no evidence towards that. This wealthy couple had disappeared on March 5th, 1957, and people were asking, was it murder, a tragic accident? Were they spies? Because this was back in the day when it was the Cold War. If you guys don't remember, the 50s and the 60s were very plagued by the Red Scare. The Red Scare was when we were fearful that there were Russian spies here in the United States, which there were, and we were worried that they were stealing our secrets because we were in this bitter Cold War. And to me, the Cold War to me means basically that we were in a war with Russia, but nobody was actually physically attacking each other. We had a lot of proxy wars. We had, conflicts, but it mainly was just to see who was the bigger man, essentially. Russia was like, here's a proxy war. The US was like, here's a proxy war. We sent somebody to space. The US was like, we're sending somebody to space. Russia was like, we're making nuclear weapons. The US said, we're making nuclear weapons. And it was just this back and forth, but nobody really was actually fighting each other. There was just a lot of beef. So that's why a lot of people think that this couple was spy, because it was during that era. And it just made a lot of sense to a lot of people. So who are we talking about and what are we talking about, right? Like, you're giving me all this information, but I want to know who these people are. So their names were William Patterson and Margaret Patterson. They had owned this successful photography business in El Paso. Their home was located on the 300 block of Piedmont. And inside of their home, there was no struggle. There was no obvious sign of them packing in a rush. There was no note. They left behind their possessions, assets, and cats. There are no bodies, no suspect, nothing. Again, to this day, nobody knows what happens. And that's why, I like the conspiracies, you know what I mean? But I do think that them being spies just doesn't make any sense because, I guess, but at the same time, it's kind of like they left their possessions, their asset, and their cat, and there was no sign that they rushed out to leave their home. I don't know. It just, to me, does not really fit. And then there's no struggle in the home. So it's also just kind of like, what happened? Maybe they were spies, but they were taken out. And it was just such a cleanly done thing. But other than that, it's still just like, foul play is a common theory. But, again, where the couple was, murdered, it was predominantly cleaned up. some people say that, they disappeared on their own will, started their life elsewhere. Many people think that they were involved in spying, abduction, which is the most outlandish. The El Paso County past sheriff Leo Seminego stated that he does believe that the spy theory, because it does appear that they got up and left everything behind. Seminego adds that it was reported that they were seen taking photos of the military base, because here in El Paso, for further context, we have our military base here, which is Fort Bliss. So they were apparently seen taking photos of Fort Bliss. So that's why he believes that it is potentially possible that it was them being spies, because why would they take photos of Fort Bliss? But then I'm also like, no, no, no. They could take photos for Fort Bliss for like a lot of different reasons. You know what I mean? Like, they're photographers. You don't know if they're being contracted for a job, because maybe somebody said, hey, can you please film Fort Bliss? We're military contractors. You don't know if military contractors, hired them. It was the 50s. I don't know how the 50s are. I know today it would not fly. Like today, if you were seen taking photos of a military base today, it would be like controversial. A lot of people would be like, what are you doing? But it was the 50s. I feel like the 50s were just like a different time, in my personal opinion. But again, that's me. uh, Now, today, their home is coined as one of El Paso's most haunted homes. Now, I'd say one of the most, because it's El Paso and there's so many haunted locations here in El Paso. There's so many homes that are haunted. Like, to me, the most haunted area in El Paso, and I will argue tooth and nail that it's the most haunted area. It's definitely downtown, central, Kern area. That whole area, Sunset Heights, very haunted. It's old. It has so much rich history. It has so many different people coming in and out. So that's why I say, like, while this house is haunted, it is one of the most haunted houses. And I think that the house having paranormal activity, I feel like it adds a layer to the validity of something actually happening to the couple that maybe was not them just leaving at their own free will. Because why are people having the experiences that they're having in their home? Right? Like, why would there be ghosts in somebody's home if they left on their own will, if they never passed away in the home? Why are there ghosts in there? And I think that that's what needs to be investigated. I don't think that we need to harp so much on like explaining if they were spies, explaining if they disappeared, explaining this or that. I think we really need to focus on did they die? Did somebody actually do something that was just such a clean job that like nobody could explain it? Because again, why is there paranormal activity in the home? If you are like me and you love the paranormal and you investigate and you know how to make sense of things, why on this planet Earth would there be, paranormal activity in a home that shouldn't have it? If there was no tragic accident, if there was no murder, if there's no nothing in there, why? One of the ghosts I do understand, and I'll get to it, but the other ones I just don't. So here is the story. So the home has laid empty. Okay, so from 1957 all the way until 1972, nobody occupied the home. Which, okay, maybe it could give some validity to some paranormal activity because the home sat vacant. I mean, we don't know what happened between 1957 to about 1972, right? So this woman named Elizabeth and her family were the first to occupy the home after the Pattersons' disappearance. Now, Elizabeth's father worked for the railroad. He was transferred over to El Paso, so they knew nothing of the house's background. And I think that this was back in the day, because I remember that like now they do now they do have to disclose, but I don't know if back then they disclosed really like if houses had something happen. I don't know how that works. But I'm wondering, did they have to disclose it to them? Because according to Elizabeth, they did not know nothing about it. They were transferred to El Paso. They've never been to El Paso before. They never knew nothing of anything. And I guess since technically nobody was murdered in the home, the realtor probably was like, I don't want to tell them nothing. You know what I mean? They're not from El Paso. They don't know. So Elizabeth had noticed right away, though, that there was something off about the house. From her first day coming into the home, she had seen a cat on the counter, tail wrapped around its legs, looking directly at her as if it was waiting to be fed. The cat had no color, it was a sheer veil, and she went up to the cat to pet the cat, but as soon as she reached towards the cat had disappeared. Now, the cat ghost, I'm like, okay, that one to me makes sense, right? Because they did leave the cat behind. I don't know what happens to that. I know that today animal service here in El Paso will remove animals if something happens to an owner, but I don't know how it was back in the day. So, unfortunately, it sounds like the cat did pass away and the cat's spirit is there. Other apparitions that were noticed in the home was a woman wearing a 50s era clothing, because she said, according to her, Elizabeth, she was like, listen, this is the 70s, baby. Nobody wears that no more. That trend is out. So I know that that is out of the ordinary. Other things they experienced were shadows, footsteps, certain smells that would waft the house. Elizabeth had stated an experience with her father, who she said had a really great sense of smell, and said that he would often complain that he could smell the cat. So and they didn't even have a cat. I do want to preface that. Like, I know you're probably like, they probably had a cat. They did not have a cat. They had moved out, okay? Moved out of the home 3 months after moving in. Think about that. 3 months after moving into this home, they dipped. They said, we cannot take these weird smells. We can't take the footsteps, the shadows, this, that. They moved out. And I don't know if the house is actually occupied to this day. That's a good question. Should have looked at that before. My bad. But I do know that in 2017, Paso del Norte Paranormal Society had led an investigation of home. And baby girl, we got, I know what you're thinking. We got audio, baby girl. We got audio for y'all. Huh? Is it like at the end? Hmm. Eh.
I turned it on earlier, so you were walking to heaven.
Huh. I'm not really sure about those. But I'll let you take, to which is your own on that one. I really will. So yeah, one of the most haunted places, one of the most craziest mysteries that's never been solved to this day. It's one of El Paso's cold cases. And while that evidence is pretty striking, I do have some questions, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below. Did you guys know about this? Have you guys heard about this? Have you experienced anything in the home? Have you gone yourself? Have you heard stories from the grapevine? What do you think happened to them? Let me know. Like, comment, share. I promise I'll keep coming back. I promise you. Do you think that they have gone to the other side? Do you think it was something else? Pop off in the comments. Okay, again, like, share, comment, subscribe, go to my TikTok, everything. Bye. This is the other side. Have a good one.